name is Marion Buricatu, for those who don't know me. I am a French artist, and I lived in the US since 2001. And I started painting when I moved to the US in 2001. So I am an artist. And as I was also developing, teaching painting classes to my students, I realized how much they loved when I talked to them about master painters. And I also realized that how much I learned about my own art production when I learned about the master painters, about their doubts, about their culture, and how they were trying to show their culture. I'm very much into cultural differences because that's part of my everyday life. And so I'm always tuned to this, the echoes of the culture in the art production. So something I talk a lot about. So today this is a presentation about this painting, and it's called the Cradle. It's by Berthe Morisot, so that's how we pronounce it in French. We say Berthe. And this painting was made in 1872, and the Cradle translation in French is Le Berceau. First, I'm going to ask you a question. So, where is the painting? So, is it at the Clark Institute in Williamstown in Massachusetts? Is it at the Marmottan Museum in Paris? Or is it at the Orsay Museum in Paris? What did you say? Yes, it's at the, so in French we say the Musée d'Orsay in Paris. I didn't put this picture by mistakes. In fact, so the Musée d'Orsay, the Orsay Museum is the Impressionist museum in Paris. But the Musée Marmottan is a small museum also about Impressionists. They probably have the biggest Claude Monet collections. And I went there this summer with my son, and it's a wonderful small museum. If you don't want to spend the day in the museum because you have so many other things to do in Paris, I highly recommend this small museum. And also, the Clark Institute in Williamstown has a lot of Impressionist painting. It even has some Berthe Morisot paintings. It is a beautiful museum. Honestly, it's a day trip that I highly recommend to you. You will be, I was impressed that we went like, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I just loved it. So, a quick bio of Berthe Morisot. She was French. She was born in 1841, and I'm going to ask you to remember that date because I'm going to keep on telling you her age because I think it's important to understand her evolution through her life. She grew up in Passy, Paris, which is a very wealthy neighborhood of Paris, still very wealthy neighborhood in Paris. So, who was she born the same year as? Was she born the same year as Marie Cassatt, Pierre-Auguste Renoir, or Camille Pissarro? Who is wanting? Well, honestly, you have 1 chance out of 3. So just do it. Someone is willing to make a mistake?
Marie Cassatt.
No. Good try. So it's Pierre-Auguste Renoir. Marie Cassatt is 3 or 2 years younger. Pierre-Auguste Renoir, same age, and her best friend. And Camille Pissarro, I put his name here because, in fact, he is the oldest of the Impressionist gang. He was born in 1830. So this painting is a painting by Edouard Manet. It's Berthe Morisot with a bouquet of violets. It was painted in 1872, so she was 31 years old. And it's at the Musée d'Orsay. And as you can see, she was a beautiful young lady. So, for this presentation, I like to explain my plan. So you can understand my thoughts and how I constructed my presentation. The first topic is Berthe Morisot education. Okay, then I'm going to talk about Edma, her sister, and how their relationship was so important and in making her this wonderful artist. And then the Franco-Prussian War, because when you talk about Impressionists in France, you cannot not talk about the Franco-Prussian War. This is something that defined the Impressionists. Another painting by Edouard Manet, Berthe Morisot with a Fan, 1872, and this one is at the Museum of Lille. It's a city at the north of France. Okay, so first part, Berthe education. This one also I've divided this first part into 4 sub-subjects. A bourgeois family, 2 arts teachers, Le Louvre and Edouard Manet. And this is a painting that's called The Bath, painted in 1885, so she was 44 years old when she painted this painting. And do you see where it is? It's at the Clark Art Institute. And this is really what we call her mature style. So let's start with a bourgeois family, the Tuesday dinner. So Berthe Morisot was really coming from the upper class. And education for the girls of the upper class in the 19th century in Paris was very specific. First, the education was at home. Most of them would receive their education at home. Some of them would go in boarding school, but most of them would be at home. And they would be taught what we in English you call creative arts. In French we call that art d'agrément. So they would be taught the creative art, in French the art d'agrément. And I wrote the French word because, to be fair, I prefer the French word. Why? I think that creative art, for me at least, sounds very positive. I think creative art, I mean, it's wonderful. Art d'agrément, no, it's not positive. I mean, art d'agrément, it means that we want them to know how to sew, to know how to draw, to know how to do music, but we don't want them to be good at it. Okay? A professional drawer, it's a man. Okay? A musician, it's a man. A painter, a professional painter, it's a man. It's not a woman at that time. They are taught to become a future wife, and they need to be able to have good conversation, to be exposed to things, but not too much. Okay? The problem is that Berthe and Edma want to become professional, and that's going to be a problem. But what happened in this family is something that was extremely important in the French culture. It's the dinners. So it was very important way before 19th century, and it's still very important. I mean, when I go back to France every summer, we spend hours at the dinner table, and we talk. And I can understand how in the 19th century this was already so important in the culture. And there was something that they were doing at that time that we don't do anymore, is that Mr. and Mrs. Morisot would host dinners on Tuesday. Mrs. Manet, for example, would host dinner on Thursdays. So every family had their days to host. And then every family had their reputation. So, for example, Mr. and Mrs. Morisot's dinner on Tuesday had the reputation to be kind of cool, simple, not too complicated, and with good conversation. Some of them, for example, would be much more, maybe with people from the government, would have, reputation to be much more upscale. So no, this is Mr. and Mrs. Morisot's dinner had the reputation to be really pleasant. And in these dinners, you would have intellectual artists and politicians who would exchange ideas. And the thing that was very important about these dinners is that, in the difference to many other families, Mr. and Mrs. Morisot let their daughters participate in the dinner. So this is really where Berthe really started to have her first training, where she got her openings, her critical thinking. Okay, so I think when you read about the history of the Impressionists, you have to imagine them like Degas, for example. On Tuesday he was there. On Thursday he was at the Manet. On Wednesday it was another family, and they were like going here and there. That's how it was working. So now the art teachers. So they had two main art teachers. The first one was Joseph Guichard. So a looming catastrophe. So Joseph Guichard was really the first real art teacher that really taught them real skills to become real artists. And he recognized the talent of Berthe and Edma, which was Berthe's sisters, and he realized that they are not interested in the art d'agrément. And he wants their mother that in this well-to-do society, this could be a catastrophe. And this is the letter that he wrote to the mother. He wrote to their mother, "With nature like those of your daughters, my teaching won't end up giving them pretty little drawing room accomplishments. They will become painters. Have you really considered what that means? In your well-to-do society, that would be a catastrophe. Art will become the master of the destiny of your daughters." And he didn't know that he was so right. So then, after that, Berthe Morisot, she's happy to learn with Joseph Guichard, but she wants to learn more. The problem at that time is that going at the School of the Beaux-Arts was impossible because it was not open to girls. The Beaux-Arts School opened to girls in 1897, 2 years after Berthe's death. So no schooling possible. And then the other solution was maybe, for example, to go in a private workshop, like, for example, the Studio Glare, where Monet and Renoir met and had their early training. But again, this was not a place for, well-to-do ladies. They had some kind of like nefarious atmosphere. There was no way they could go there. So really, the Louvre is the only place for them to get training. And in this place, they will study the old master, and mostly they will make friends. And they will meet all the other future great artists, not like Manet. They will meet Manet. And there will also be some flirting going on because, as you can imagine, Berthe and Edma are beautiful young ladies, and they do have a lot of suitors that they will meet. And you have to understand that the mother is always here as a chaperone. So when they are painting and studying the master, the mother is here sitting and she's, doing something else. But the mother is always here. So this is an image, art student and copyist in the Louvre Gallery by Winslow Homer in 1868. It's at the Library of Congress. And I wonder, I searched for some history about this picture because I thought that maybe this was Berthe and Edma. It really looked so appropriate for what they were going through. So now she's been through, she had Joseph Guichard, then the Louvre. Now she wants to go outside. She wants to paint outside. She wants to paint what she feels. She wants to paint what she sees. And she wants to paint what she imagines. And don't you think this sounds very much like Impressionism? Yes. But she doesn't know Monet or Renoir, who are at the same time trying to do the same thing. Because really, Impressionism is not born yet. It's just a feeling. Something is happening. Something is in the air. And there, she wants to learn plein air painting. And they're going to learn with Camille Corot. So that's going to be from 1860 to 1863. So she was born in 41, so that means she is 19 to 22, if I'm right. And there they're going to learn the outdoor painting with the best landscape painters, like Camille Corot. Camille Corot belongs to what we call the Barbizon School, which is an early Impressionist. This is the pre-Impressionism. It's what we call also the realist movement. And this is they want to start getting out. They want to start painting outside of the studio, but they are still painting very much in the previous art movement. They have not detached themselves yet to become Impressionists. This is a painting from Morisot, and it was painted in 1863. It's in a private collection in London. Barbizon School. So I told you Camille Corot belongs to this school that is named the Barbizon School. I would call that the pre-Impressionist movement. Is named after a painter, An art movement or a village? So, do you have some idea who is willing to take a risk?
Art movement?
Art movement? No, I'm sorry, but bravo, you tried. No, well, so it's a village. And it is a village that is just outside of Paris, on the edge of the Fontainebleau forest, which is the forest where they developed this style. They would go outside, and this is a quaint little, that's how they describe it. They describe it as a quaint little village, except that nowadays, it's probably just a suburb. You see, like every suburb in Paris. This is a road by the water by Camille Corot, and do you see where it is? It's at the Clark Institute in Williamstown. I strongly advise you, when you'll go there to the Clark Institute, you'll be able to compare the Impressionist style to this period. You'll see Camille Corot, there's more of them of the same period. It's very interesting because you can see that there are the differences. So now, in 1868, so she is now 27, she is going to meet Edouard Manet. And she's going to meet him at the Louvre. So she is fascinated by him. And let's just jump right into the subject. She had a huge crush on him, and Edma also, because we can read in the letters that they sent to each other that they both had a huge crush on him. Edouard Manet is a fascinating man. He is handsome, and he is extremely good at his painting. They know that, and they are in in awe. You say like that? They are in awe in front of him. But they also know that he's married and he's a womanizer. So Berthe and Edma, have a good education, and they let herself have a crush, but no more than that. On the other side, Berthe and Edouard Manet are going to develop a strong relationship. And he's going to become her mentor. Yeah. He's going to become her mentor. And they will develop in the end an equal relationship where they're going to both have a huge influence on each other. He thinks she has the beauty of the devil, la beauté du diable in French, with her dark gaze. This is a painting by Manet, 1870, called Le Repose, and do you see where it is? Rhode Island School of Design. I mean, you have a lot of painting just around here. Manet, something that is very important in Manet is that he was the master of the black. He was very good at painting this color, and it's a hard color to paint because it's hard to get the nuances. He's considered as the master of this color. And he said, okay, let me I have it in French here. He does not think that a woman can be a painter when he meets them. And he wrote to one of his friends, he said, the two Morisot sisters are very charming. That is so sad that they are not men. It just shows that, how hard it was for a woman to be taken seriously. So this is a comparison between Manet and Morisot. On the left is a painting by Manet. On the right is a painting by Morisot. Both of them the same year. This one just before. And it's being said that the second one was kind of like inspired by the previous one. It just shows the influence of Manet on Morisot's painting. So Manet's painting, La Lecture, so it's the reading, 1869, it's at the Musee dOrsay Museum, and this one is at the National Gallery of Art in Washington, so you're going to have to drive a little bit further. Okay, Manet's painting. This is Suzanne, Manet's wife, and Léon, who probably is his son. We're not sure about that. You can see the black and white contrasts that are really the signature style of Manet. And the shadows are raw, and the lights are very violent. That's really his style. And we would say that this is a viril, how do you say that?
Virile.
Thank you. Say it again.
Virile.
Viral?
Virile.
Viral? No, like a male.
Yes, virile.
Virile, okay. But while this one by Berthe is showing a family intimacy, and there's a mixture of softness, of dreaminess, and that's going to be also her signature style that she's going to develop even more as she's going to really become an accomplished painter. And we can definitely say that this is a much more feminine universe. Okay? The story about this painting is that Monet, who kind of was like, the mentor, and he had a huge ego, he couldn't help himself. But he went back on the painting and he reworked the painting. He reworked the bottom of the black dress, he reworked the hands of the mother, because this is the mother of Berthe Morisot, and this is her sister, Edma. And she was absolutely furious, because even if she really accepted him as a mentor, she didn't want to be a pale copy of Monet. She wanted to be her own artist, and she was just furious that he would take the liberty like that to impose his, himself on her painting. So we talked about Berthe's education. I told you about the two main teachers, Le Louvre and Edouard Manet. And now let's talk a little bit about Berthe's sister, Edma. Through a sisterhood, the salon, and then marriage. So Edma Morisot, painted here by Berthe, and again la lecture, it's all la lecture, or the repose, or la lecture, or, And this one is at the Cleveland Museum of Art. Edma and Berthe, sisterhood. So this is a painting by Edma of Berthe, painted in 1865. So Berthe was, she was around 41, 24, okay? Young lady. And so they were painting companion. There was some healthy stimulation between the two of them. They would always paint together. Their father built for them a workshop next to the building where they lived in Paris. They would be always together. They would go everywhere together. They would really have this same passion, and that is very important to understand that. Corot said that Edma had more talent and that Berthe is more passionate. He said that Edma's work is more refined, and he said that Berthe is not compliant. She paints, her painting is like a conquest. She's passionate, she views her painting like a vocation. She is somber, and she is not a nice person. So Berthe is the youngest, I think I should have right, of three sisters. Edma is the second one. What is the name of the older sister? Julie, Eve, or in French, Ève. So that's a tough one. So who is willing to make the wrong guess?
Julie.
Well, Julie was the name of her daughter. So now you have Eve. Which one? The number two, this one, Eve. Number two, yes. So, which is a male name, and we don't know why the parents gave their older daughter a male name. Maybe they wanted a boy, or maybe, in memory of someone in the family. We don't know about that. Oh, this is Eve when she was married by Edgar Degas, painted in 1869, and this painting is at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So the salon. So the salon is the greatest art event in the Western world. This is the place where every year, or even sometimes twice a year, the jury from the very serious painters from the Beaux-Arts Academy would select a huge amount of work to be shown to the world. And this was a huge event. And from what I read, for me, I don't know, maybe you're going to laugh at me, but I would compare that to, I would say, you know, when you have like a movie from the Star Wars that is coming out nowadays. Because when you have Star Wars movies that are coming out, everybody has an opinion. Everybody likes or dislikes. The whole family is going, oh, you're going by yourself. You can't escape that. You know, it's like, and you have to have an opinion. You have to like it or dislike it. You cannot say, I don't care about Star Wars. I mean, you can't say these things. This is not acceptable. Well, I would say it's kind of the same thing at that time. Everybody has an opinion. The newspaper writes about that everywhere, and you have the art critics that are going to kill a painting, or they're going to say it's wonderful. The whole family is going to go there, huge. And the thing I want you to notice, because for me it's just mind-boggling, look at how they're putting the paintings. They're like paintings everywhere. I mean, come on, I mean, would we do that now? I mean, now it's just like one painting on one wall almost. No, it's like everywhere. And I was reading in a book that sometimes they even put the paintings on the ceilings. So it's like, I mean, I don't know, it's a completely different world. This image was in 1787, so almost 100th century before Berthe. Well, this one, I didn't have the date, but looking at how people were dressed, I thought that we were probably in the same period than Berthe Morisot. The girls, Berthe and Edma, were accepted at the Salon in 1864. So Berthe was 23. So you see, being accepted at the Salon at 23 years old, I think it's pretty good. And almost every year after that until 1873. And the thing that is funny is that in 1865, they were accepted also as well as Manet. And something you need to know is that in this room, the way you are sorted is by alphabetical order, which means that the Morisot sisters were in the same room as Manet. But the problem is that that year, Manet painted Olympia, which would be another art talk, which was a huge scandal. And nobody saw the Morisot sister painting because everybody was way too busy criticizing and being shocked by Manet's painting. And Mrs. Morisot was furious. She was just furious at Manet that he stole their daughter's ability to be seen. So this is two paintings that they showed at the Salon. Spring Landscape with Peasant on a Pond by Edma Morisot. There's barely any paintings of Edma. They are all in private collection, so it's really difficult to see them. And this one is a Chaumière en Normandie at the National Gallery of Art in Washington, painted in 1866. And this painting is considered as Berthe's first masterpiece. So now, 1866, Berthe is 25 years old, and Edma got married. And Berthe is devastated. It's like she's losing her companion. It's a catastrophe. And Edma is bored because she's getting married with a marine officer, and she's moving to the West Coast. So she grew up in Paris, painting with the Tuesday dinners and the Thursday dinners and all of these dinners and all of these activities. And suddenly now she's in Lorient on the West Coast, and she's bored. And you can read the letters that she wrote to Berthe. Clearly, she had a rough time getting to adjust to her new life. And she's going to lose her will to paint. So in the same letters, Berthe wrote that she will never get married. She said that this is just impossible. You cannot be a woman artist who wants to be a professional and be married. This is just impossible. Art and married life, two incompatible vocations. So she's going to grow. She was not easy before. She's going to get even more difficult. So this is of a portrait of Edma and her baby, the Cradle that I'm talking about. So I wanted to show you two sides of Berthe at that time. On the left side, I would say the cold side of Berthe. On the right side, the warm side of Berthe. So this picture was taken in 1870, so she was 29 years old. So she's not smiling, but you would say, well, that they were never smiling on pictures at that time. So, but, well, I still used it because I wanted to make my point. And my point is that she's anorexic. She has eating disorder. And she is very negative, she is very distant, and she's kind of bitter. And the man who is going to marry her in several years wrote that in French he said, Elle n'a que du dessus de cœur, which means she only has the top layer of her heart. So you see, I don't think she was a very nice person. On the right side, this is her paintings. And the paintings are warm, they are full of color, they are happy, they are vivacious. And what I think is that for a long time, her true self was expressed through her paintings. And because she was fighting, you know, she was fighting to become this professional painter, she had to keep this facade. But inside of her, something really was building. And this is all the paintings that you're going to get until the end of her life, which are really warm and happy paintings. So the Franco-Prussian War. So I have a little problem here. As I told you, we talked about the education, we talked about her relationship with her sister, and now the Franco-Prussian War. That lasted from 1870 to 1871. The German besieged Paris for 6 months, 12 months, or 4 months. Do you have an idea? I'm happy to see that you don't know the answer. What did you say?
12 months.
Well, it was 4 months. But good try. Thank you for trying. During the siege, the family Morisot, the parents can't decide if they're going to go leave Paris, stay here. Everybody's leaving because they know it's dangerous, but the parents just want to stay, protect their belongings, and they're staying. And they're going to leave with the bombings, with the hunger, and all of that. And Berthe is going to be very depressed during that time. This is a painting by Puvis-Chavannes, which was one of the group of the Impressionists. In 1870, it's at the Orsay Museum, and it's called Le Ballon, which means in English the hot air balloon. And it's full of packages, letters sent across the siege to the families. You see, it was not a nice ambiance at that time. So then, when the siege is finished and the French have lost against the Prussian, then what's going to happen is that you're going to have two sides that are going to start fighting against each other. And this is what we're going to call the Civil War, from the early 1871 to May 71. And it's called La Commune. It's French against French. It's the France unity is shaken. And you have a side that is more conservative and kind of like pro-king. They're not sure, they've been trying to have a republic. They already tried 2 republics, didn't work. In the meantime, they had 3 new monarchies. They had 2 empires. They were like, let's go back to the old system. It was working much better. But then you also have the other side who is done with all of that. They want a republic. We call them the Republicans. Okay? And on this side, you have some kind of radicals who are called the communards. La Commune, we call them the communards. They are the revolutionaries. And these guys, they are going to take Paris and declare Paris independent. And then the government has to flee, go to Versailles, and this is a big mess. Okay? During that time, the environment is toxic. Families are torn apart, widespread fear, denunciation. suspicion, and you can see a barricade here in 1871. Berthe doesn't take side. She believes in peace and reconciliation, and she doesn't want to have any party affiliation. Because during that time, the dinners, the Tuesday dinners, kept on going. And the parents are on the conservative side, and Manet and the group of Impressionists, they are on the Republican side. They're moderate, but there are two parties. And knowing that now it's a civil war, even if you're a moderate, you fight with the other moderate. You see, it's like a real division. She understands then that her painting is her only passion. She is anemic. She is morally and physically exhausted, but she keeps on painting. She escapes in her painting. And at that time, her workshop was destroyed by the bombings. Can you imagine your house and just right there, there's a bomb and... Then when the war is finished and the government regained control, finally, after years, it's going to take them at least 5-6 years to finally decide to really make a republic, and then France will really become finally the republic that it is now. So after this war, she's exhausted, so she goes to her sister Edma, who is living on the West Coast. And she's going to go there for 3 months for convalescence. She is so tired, she cannot even take her easel outside. She's so weak. But during this time, she is going to paint the Cradle. And the Cradle is really, and we can read that in her letters, it's really a stance against war. So when you see this painting the first time, you're like, oh, it's a cute painting. But really, there's something much more behind this painting. It's about a woman who says that she doesn't want war anymore. She is just done with it. She's foreign to human barbarity. She thinks that the male world is, you're going to say it for me? Virile, thank you, and hostile. That's what she writes in her letters. She wants a happy atmosphere to defeat anger, rage, hatred and revenge. She wants to save herself in a dream. So this painting is much more than that. And you will realize when you look at Impressionist paintings from the post-70s to the 80s, so 1870 to 1880, you will realize that even the Monet's painting, they're all happy painting. They want to forget what happened. Okay? And that is very important, I think, to understand Impressionism. And what is really interesting is that after the hardship of the war and the commune, she is not the cold and anorexic woman anymore. She is going to blossom into a much more confident woman. After the war, a marriage. In 1874, at 33 years old, Berthe Morisot got married with Eugène Manet, who was Edouard's brother, Pierre-Henri Renoir, Renoir's brother, or Henri Le Roll. Haha, another tough one, I hope.
I think it's Manet.
Manet, bravo. She got married with Eugène Manet, who was Edouard's brother. This is him and their daughter Julie. And she will be the only female artist at that time who will be able to combine married life and professional artist. Marie Cassatt will never get married because she will realize that this is two things that she cannot combine. And the other really well-known Impressionist female was Marie Bracquemont, who will get married and give up painting. Berthe Morisot was extremely supported by her husband. He's the one who organized all her exhibition. He was completely supportive of her art production. In 1873, she will finally join the group, the Artistes Anonymes, not yet named, the Impressionists, an avant-garde group. She turns her back on tradition and the salon, and she will choose the freedom of this new and avant-garde group. There's going to be a total of 8 exhibitions, and she will miss only 1 exhibition because she was giving birth to Julie. In 1874 was the first exhibition of the artiste anonyme. She's the only woman. This painting, Lady at Her Toilette, painted in 1875, is at the Art Institute of Chicago, and you can see her style now. This is, you can clearly now understand her more feminine style, beautiful color, bright. There's a feeling of happiness. She is saying something. So in this first exhibition in 1874, there are going to be 4 paintings. This one, Cherbourg Harbor, which is in a private collection in Virginia. Hide and Seek is in Las Vegas. The mother and sister of the artist at the National Gallery of Art. And finally, the Cradle. So the presentation is finished. I hope you liked it. I am 5 minutes late. And I hope you will learn to appreciate even more Berthe Morisot. You can see that there are a lot of her paintings in the area. And that she's wonderful, her story, and what a drive this woman had.